Hi everyone. Today we're going to learn a different way to measure an angle. So in the past, we see triangles, we measure them in degrees. We see circles, we measure them in degrees. Any type of angle we see, we've always measured it in degrees. Today we're going to learn about something called a radian. Now a radian takes an aspect of a circle and uses that as a measurement tool. So we're going to start with a warm-up, and this warm-up is very closely related to what we're going to learn today. So we got to think about some geometry here. How many degrees are in a circle? What's the circumference formula for a circle? And what's the relationship between the diameter of a circle and the radius of the circle? So go ahead, pause the video, answer these questions. We're going to see how these answers are connected to what we're doing today. Okay, I'm very confident that you got the first answer right, and you told me that the 360 degrees in a circle. Now you might have remembered this formula. If not, write it down. The circumference, which is the perimeter of a circle, the distance along the outside, is 2 pi r. And the relationship between the radius and the diameter is twice the length of the radius, and the radius is half of the diameter. So if I know the radius, I can find the diameter. If I know the diameter, I can find the radius. And then I can go ahead and find circumference. So today, we're going to talk about the radius of a circle, the diameter, and then convert from degrees to radians. So the radius is the length from the center to the outside, and degrees and radians are just two different ways to measure an angle. Now we're going to do an art activity today. So hopefully at this point you grab a scissors and a piece of paper, and I'm going to walk you through step by step so that we learn what a radian is. So step one, okay, on a piece of paper, I want you to take something round and trace it. Okay, a medium-sized circle. A mug for coffee might work, the base of a water bottle, something that's round. Trace the same circle twice. Okay, feel free to pause this video if I ever go too fast. Step two, cut one of the circles out. Don't cut the other one. Cut one of them. Okay, and cut it exactly on the circle. So you should have a cutout circle and a circle that's still drawn on your paper. Same size circle. Step three, fold the circle that you cut out into a quarter. So fold it along the diameter and then fold it along the radius. So fold it in half and half again. And now this length is the radius. Okay, so you created a folded circle that has two radii and the curved part. So a quarter circle. What we're going to do with this is we're going to take and bend this red part, the radius, along the outside of the circle, and we're going to mark. So mark a starting point, bend the radius and measure that, and that's one radius. Now I want you to do that till you get to the end, and then we're going to count how many radiuses or radii make up the full circle. So pause the video if you need. There will be some counting involved here. So you bend radius and you count one's radii, two radii, 3, 4, 5, 6, and some extra. So 6 and some extra is not mathematically sound, but we're going to see what that extra is. So there's 6 and a little over a quarter. There's 6.28 radii around the circle. So a circle has 2 pi radians. So just like a circle has 360 degrees, a circle has 2 pi radians. So 0 degrees equals 0 radians, and 360 degrees equals 2 pi radians. So we're going to use the radius of the circle to measure an angle. So 1 radius, or 1 radian, is that much. So 1 radian is a little less than 60 degrees. So a lot of times when we're measuring angles in circles, we're using radians, not degrees. So a circle has 360 degrees. It also has 2 pi radians. These are the same measurement, just different units. Now to convert from degrees to radians, we're going to divide by 180. We're going to make a fraction. We'll simplify the fraction and multiply by pi. So radians a lot of times is in terms of pi. So 2 pi or 1 pi or pi over 6. And then to convert from radians to degrees, radians generally has pi in it. We're going to replace pi with 180. And I'll show you what that looks like with a few examples. So it may ask you to convert 240 degrees to radians, or it may ask you to convert 2 pi over 3 radians to degrees. So since we know that pi equals 180, we're going to use that conversion. So anytime we see pi, we can put 180. And anytime we got to go from degrees to radians, we can divide by 180 and multiply by pi. So in this first one, 240 degrees, I'm going to divide by 180 and multiply by pi. And I'm going to simplify this fraction. Okay, I can chop off the zeros. I can use a calculator to simplify the fraction, but I want fraction and improper fraction. So numerator is allowed to be bigger than the denominator. So I got 4/3 pi. So I can write this in a few different ways. I can write it as 4 pi over 3, or I can write it as 4/3 pi. And both ways are acceptable. Now to convert 2 pi over 3 radians to degrees, okay, pi is 180, so I have 2 times 180 divided by 3. I would recommend do 180 divided by 3 multiplied by 2. So 180 divided by 3 is 60, times 2 is 120. Or if you want to type it all in the calculator, you're fine to do that as well. But we need to remember that pi is 180 degrees. And that's going to go on our unit circle. And 2 pi is going to go on our unit circle. And there's a whole bunch of other angles in radians that are special and we deal with a lot. So what I'd like you to do is take your unit circle out and convert all of the angles from degrees to radians. So 30, 45, 60, 90, and think of proportional reasoning. If 180 degrees is pi, what would 90 degrees be? Maybe what's 30 degrees and 45? So take 5-10 minutes, pause the video if you need. Fill out that unit circle, start connecting angle measurements in degrees to radians. When you're ready, unpause the video. We'll take a look at some of the conversions. So here we are. Here are the different angles on your unit circle. Notice 0 and 2 pi are both at the same position, along with 0 degrees and 60 and 360. Here are the rest of the angles. Okay, all of these fractions are going to be simplified, and that's okay. If you didn't simplify them, check to see if when you simplify them, you get these. And now we have a fully filled out unit circle, where x is the cosine value and y is the sine value, and we know each angle in degrees and radians. And we're going to see that normally when we are talking about circles, we use radians instead of degrees. Triangles, we use degrees a lot more. But as soon as we get to circles, it's nice to use radians to measure the angle of a circle because radians take the radius of the circle and use that as a measurement. And now you know both degrees and radians.